other shelves were full of books. They were the only things in the room that looked as though they'd never been touched. From downstairs came the sound of Dudley bawling at his mother. "I don't want me there. I need the room. Make him get out." Harry sighed and stretched out on his bed. Yesterday he'd had give anything to be up here. Today he'd rather be back in the cupboard with that letter than up here without it. Next morning at breakfast, everyone was rather quiet. Dudley was in shock. He screamed, woke his father with his smelting stick, been sick on purpose, kicked his mother, and thrown his toys through the greenhouse roof. And he still didn't have his room back. Harry was thinking about the time yesterday and Bithering wished he'd opened the letter in the hole. Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia kept looking at each other darkly. When the mail arrived, Uncle Vernon, who seemed to be trying to be nice to Harry, made Dudley go and get it. They heard him banging things with his smelting stick all the way down the hall. Then he shouted, "There's another one. Mr. H. Potter, the smallest bedroom, 4 Private Drive." With a strangled cry, Uncle Vernon leaped from his seat and ran down the hall. Harry right behind him. Uncle Vernon had to wrestle Dudley to the ground to get the letter from him, which was around the neck from behind. After a minute of confused fighting, in which everyone got hit a lot by smelting stick, Uncle Vernon straight up, gasping for breath, with Harry's letter clutched in his hand. "Go to your cupboard. I'm in your bedroom," he whisked at Harry. "Dudley, go. Just go." Harry walked round and round his new room. Someone knew he had moved out of his cupboard. Surely that meant to know again. And this time he'd make sure they didn't fail. He had a plan. He repaired alarm clock, rang at 6 o'clock the next morning. Harry turned it quickly and dressed silently. He mustn't wake Dudley's. He stole downstairs without turning on any of the lights. He was going to wait for the postman on the corner of Private Drive and get the letters for number 4 first. His heart demanded. He crept down across the dark hall toward the front room. Harry leapt into the air. He'd trodden on something big and squishy on the doormat. Something alive. Light checked Harry on upstairs, and to his horror, Harry realized that the big squishy something had been his uncle's face. Uncle Vernon had been lying at the foot of the front in a sleeping bag, clearly making sure that Harry didn't do exactly what he'd been trying to do. He shouted at Harry for about half an hour and then told him to go and make a cup of tea. Harry shuffled miserably off into the kitchen, and by the time he got back, the mail had arrived, right into Uncle Vernon's lap. Harry couldn't see the 3 letters addresses in great ink. "I want," he began, but Uncle Vernon was tearing the letters into pieces before his eyes. Uncle Vernon didn't go to work that day. He stayed at home and nailed up the mail slot. "See," he explained to Aunt Petunia through a mouthful of nails, "if they can't deliver them I'll just give up. I'm not sure that it will work, Vernon. Oh, these people's minds work in a strange way, Petunia. They're not like you and me, said Uncle Vernon, trying to knock in a nail with a piece of fruitcake and Petunia had just brought him. On Friday, no less than 12 letters arrived for Harry. As they couldn't go through the mail slot, they had been pushed under the door, slotting through the slide, and few even forced through the small window in the downstairs bathroom. Uncle Vernon stayed at home again. After burning all the letters, he got out a hammer and nails and bored dirt up the cracks around the front and back doors so no one could got out. He hummed tippy-doo the tulips as he worked and jumped at small noises. On Saturday, things began to get out of hand. 24 letters to Harry found their way into the house, rolled up and hidden it inside each of the dozen eggs that their deliverer, very confused milkman, had handed in Petunia through the living room window, while Uncle Vernon made furious telephone calls to the post office and the dairy, trying to find someone to complain to. Aunt Petunia shared the letters in her foot pocket. Who on earth wants to talk to you this badly? Dudley asked Harry in amazement. On Sunday morning, Uncle Vernon sat down at the breakfast table, looking tired and rather ill but happy. No post on Sundays, he reminded them cheerfully as he spread marmalade on his newspaper. No damn letters today. Something came whizzing down the kitchen chimney as they spoke and caught him sharply on the back of his head. Next moment, 30 or 40 letters came pelting out on the fireplace like bullets. The Dursleys ducked, but Harry leapt into the air, trying to catch one. Out! Out! Uncle Vernon seized Harry around the waist and threw him into the hole. When Aunt Petunia and Dudley had run out with their arms off their faces, Uncle Vernon slammed the door shut. They could hear the letters still streaming into the room, bouncing off the walls and floors. That does it, said Uncle Vernon, trying to speak calmly but pulling great stops of his mustache at the same time. I want you all back here in 5 minutes, ready to leave. We're going away. Just pack some clothes. No arguments. He looked so dangerous with half his mustache missing that no one dared argue. 10 minutes later, they had rushed their way through the boarded up doors and were in the car, speeding toward the highway. Dudley was sniffing in the back seat. His father had hit him around the head for holding them up while he tried to pack his television, VCR, and computer in his sports bag. They drove, and they drove. Even Aunt Petunia didn't dare ask where they were going. Every now and then, Uncle Vernon would take a sharp turn and drive in the opposite direction of a while. Shake him off, shake him off. He would mutter whenever he did this. They didn't stop to eat or drink all day. By nightfall, Dudley was howling. He'd never had such a bad day in his life. He was hungry. He'd missed 5 television programs he wanted to see, and he'd never gone so long without blowing up an alien on his computer. Uncle Vernon stopped at last outside a gloomy-looking hotel on the outskirts of a big city. Dudley and Harry shared a room with twin beds and damp, musty sheets. Dudley snored, but Harry stayed awake, sitting on the window sill, staring down at the lights of passing cars and wondering. They ate stale cornflakes and cold tinned tomatoes and toast for breakfast the next day. They had just finished when the owner of the hotel came over to their table. "Excuse me, but it's one of you, Mr. H. Potter. Only I got about 100 of these at the front desk." She held up a letter so they could read the green ink address: Mr. Potter, room 17, Railview Hotel, Cockworth. Harry made a grab of the letter. Uncle Vernon knocked his hand out of the way. The woman stared. "I'll take them," said Uncle Vernon, standing up quickly and following her from the dining room. "Would it be better just to go there?" Aunt Petunia suggested timidly hours later, but Uncle Vernon didn't seem to hear her. Exactly what he was looking for, none of them knew. He drove them into the middle of the forest, got out, looked around, shook his head, got back in the car, and off they went again. The same thing happened in the middle of the polo field, halfway across the Subban Bridge and the top of a multi-parking garage. "Dad gone mad, hasn't he?" Dudley asked Aunt Petunia, duly light at that afternoon. Uncle Vernon had parked at the coast, locking them all inside the car, and disappeared. It started to rain. Great drops beat on the roof of the car. Dudley shivered. "It's Monday," she told his mother. "The Great Harper's on tonight. I want to stay somewhere with the television." Monday. This reminded Harry of something. It was Monday, and you could usually count on Dudley to know the days of the week because of television. Then tomorrow, Tuesday, was Harry's 11th birthday. Of course, his birthdays were never exactly fun. Last year, the Dursleys had given a coat hanger and a pair of Uncle Vernon's old socks. Still, you weren't 11 every day. Uncle Vernon was back and he was smiling. He was also carrying a long, thin package and didn't answer Aunt Petunia when she'd asked what he'd brought. Uncle Vernon was back and he was smiling. "Found the perfect place," he said. "Come on, everyone out." It was very cold outside the car. Uncle Vernon was pointing at what looked like a large rock way out at sea. Perched on the top of the rock was the most miserable little shark you could imagine. One thing was certain: there was no television in there. "Storm forecast for tonight," said Uncle Vernon gleefully, clapping his hands together. "And the gentleman kindly agreed to lend us his boat." A toothless old man came ambling up to them, pointing a rather wicked grin at an old rowboat bobbing in the iron-grey water below them.